Welcome to Liberty Park Music. I'm Michelle Huang, your piano instructor. In today's lesson, we'll be looking at two short pieces and talk about the technical and musical details that will help you practice these pieces. Let's get started with the first piece. The first piece we will talk about is Carefree Johnny by German composer Daniel Gottlob Türk. We will first take some time to figure out the key and the meter. To review, the key of a piece can be determined by moving up a half step from the last sharp of the keys. In this case, since there is only one sharp, and it is F, the key of the piece is G. This is also confirmed by the last note of the piece, both on the right and left hand. Remember, this means that all the Fs will be sharped throughout the piece. In addition, you probably also notice that there is a C sharp in measure 3 and a C natural in measure 5. This is a 4-bar phrase plus another 4-bar phrase, meaning that the pattern repeats starting from measure 5, but measures 7 and 8 are different from measure 3 and 4. Like a special ending. Looking at the right hand, it's pretty straightforward. Simple rhythm in hand position doesn't move for the whole piece except in measure 4, where the thumb on the right hand opens up a little bit to reach the bottom D. The only other thing you need to watch out for is the C sharp in measure 3 and C natural in measure 5. For the sake of counting eighth notes, let's count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and for review of rhythms. Let's play this together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Left hand starts out pretty straightforward as well, just like the right hand. However, the last two measures of the piece require your hand to move around the keys a bit. Look at measure 7 closely and pay attention to the fingerings. Notice that left hand thumb, it's placed on G. Left hand number 4, instead of placing them on D, we will move them to B. This will require you to open your hand just a little bit. Move your elbow out to the left as well to help you get to B a little easier. A common mistake here is when we read the notes, especially with fingerings already given to us, is to look at the fingerings first and play a D instead. So remember to always look at the notes first and then put the finger numbers with it. Another similar place where your pinky will need to move down is from D in measure 7 to G in measure 8. Here you will need to move your elbow out to the left even more in order to reach the bottom G. Do not stretch your hand to get to the low G. This is uncomfortable and you're likely to play wrong note. Measure 8 finishes with G octaves. Do open your hand, but don't stretch them. If you find yourself having trouble reaching an octave, hop from one note to the next and back by rocking your hand left and right. In a few minutes, we'll play hints together. But let's first talk about how to isolate measure 7 and 8 and practice these two measures a few times to feel comfortable with the fingerings and coordination. You will need to break it down into smaller chunks, such as just the first two beats of measure 6. Then beats 2 and 3. Beats 1, 2, and 3 together. Beats 3 and 4. Then all 4 beats together. This will really help you learn how the hands interact with each other. You'll find this method of adding by the beat very helpful for thorny spots like this one. Next, we will look at Kabalevsky's Pequenia Polka. We will talk about how to play two different articulations in two different hands. Take a moment and gather all the information you need to begin playing the piece. There's no sharp or flat, so we're in the key of C major. The meter is in 4/4. It seems like a pretty straightforward piece. Now look at the articulation. The left hand plays legato, while the right hand plays staccato. This is the tricky part of this piece. The hands are playing two different articulations at the same time. This is a test of your hand independence and coordination. Let's see how this works. Let's first practice playing different articulations in different hands using a simple 5-finger pattern in C. What is difficult about this is we'll play the left hand legato and right hand staccato at the same time. Try with just the first note C to get used to the muscle movement. Notice that the right hand bounces up as the left hand goes down. The hands are going completely the opposite direction. Now we'll go on to D. The left hand walks from C to D, while the right hand bounces off the note. Go on and play the rest of the 5-finger pattern. Do practice this a few times to get used to the coordination between your hands. Now let's transfer that same muscle movement to Pequenia Polka. Find your starting position. Do notice that the left hand is in treble clef as well. Play just the first measure, paying attention to the movements required to play the left hand connected, but keeping the right hand bouncy and light. A common issue with playing staccato in one hand and legato in another is that the hands will want to affect one another. For example, the tendency is to want to play the two E's on the left hand too short, since the right hand is also playing staccato. Or the staccatos on the right hand are played too long to match the left hand legato. Before we continue with this piece, let's first take a look at the right hand fingerings. Look at the two chords circled in measure 1 and 2. Remember from Carefree Johnny, we talked about looking at the notes before we attach the fingerings instead of the other way around. This is a good example of that. If you look at the top note of measure 2 chord, it's a G. If you look at the fingerings first, you might mistakenly play F instead of G. So always remember to look at the notes before you look at the fingerings. Motion-wise, playing a G will require that you move your elbow and wrist and forearm a little bit to the right in order for the pinky to travel to the G. This will keep your hand in the natural hand position we talked about without creating unnecessary tension and stretches. Here you will find another place where you will need to move positions. This is a bit different from the previous chords we talked about. Here, both top and bottom notes of the chord move up. The bottom note C in measure 5 is played with a 2. Then switch to 1 in measure 6. The common mistake made here is in measure 6, we see fingers 1 and 5 and play B and F instead. Remember, you do have to move up here and open your hand just a tad bit to play a 6. The next measure, measure 7, moves back to B and G. Let's play this right hand together. Remember to pay attention to the notes first before placing the suggestive fingerings on the notes. Also do use your arms and elbow to get to places instead of stretching your hand. Here is the right hand alone. You will want to practice playing the right hand alone a few times to get used to the fingerings and the movement before adding the left hand. Compared to the right hand fingerings, the left hand is much simpler, with only one place to watch out for. From measure 5 to 6, bring the elbow and wrist in to move from the thumb on G up to A. Then the rest of the fingers follow, moving up to a higher position. In measure 7, move the thumb back down to G, and the rest of the fingers follow as well, returning to its original position. Practice this a few times so you're used to moving up and down the keyboard. Let's play the left hand, paying attention to lifting the hand in between phrases as well. let's put hands together. Remember, the left hand walks, the right hand bounces. If you find it difficult to put it together, practice it in small chunks, 2 measures at a time, and practice at a slower tempo as well. Once you're comfortable with the articulations, you can add in the dynamics as written. In this lesson, we have talked in details the technical and musical aspects of 2 short pieces and how to practice them. Do review these pieces on a daily basis so you can absorb the materials better. See you in your next lesson.